Larry, it's a topic that sparked controversy across the country over the last few years, legalizing marijuana. And here in Idaho, recreational and medical marijuana is still illegal. Last month, a mother of two had her children taken away after she gave her daughter a smoothie with marijuana in it. It was an attempt to stop her seizures. Now she's facing charges. KTVB's Alex Livingston has the story.
It tore me apart.
It's been almost a month now since Kelsey Osborne lost custody of her two children, Madison and Riker.
I never think that it would come down to this, but it did.
She says her 3-year-old daughter was having seizures one morning.
They would stop, come back, you know, with the hallucinations and everything else.
After withdrawing from a medication called Risperdal, which is used to treat schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So she gave her a smoothie with marijuana-infused butter.
Everything stopped 30 minutes later.
A couple of hours later, Osborne took Madison to the doctor, and that's where she tested positive for marijuana, and the Department of Health and Welfare was called. Now she's been charged with a misdemeanor injury to a child. She pled not guilty.
To me, I feel like it was my last resort.
So in this situation, you think that you did all that you did the right thing?
Yeah.
Tom Shanahan with the Department of Health and Welfare says in cases like this, there's one bottom line.
Marijuana is illegal, period.
Many states like Montana, Oregon, and Washington have legalized medical or recreational marijuana. In some cases, both. But Idaho isn't one of them, and Shanahan says the two drugs aren't interchangeable.
Even in states that have legalized it, it's not legal to give to children. The cannabis that is used for children with epilepsy is called cannabidiol oil. It's had THC removed from it,
which removes the psychoactive properties otherwise found in marijuana.
It can cause brain development issues with the child, and so we view that as unsafe and illegal.
At the end of the day, your guys' main concern is the children involved.
The safety of the children involved, and so we want children to be in a safe place.
But this is something that you're going to continue to fight until you get them back.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to stop.
Alex Livingston, Idaho's News, Channel 7.
Cannabidiol oil, or CBD, is still illegal in Idaho, but Shanahan says there's an FDA program based in Boise that uses CBD as an experimental treatment for 34 children with severe epilepsy. There are strict guidelines for who qualifies to be in that program, one being that the child has to have tried several other treatments that haven't worked.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm rising today to urge my colleagues to support H.R. 1227, the Ending Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act, which I've introduced with my Republican colleague, a fellow Army veteran and former prosecutor from the state of Virginia, Congressman Tom Garrett, where we are seeking to address our outdated and widely problematic marijuana laws by federally decriminalizing marijuana. FBI reports have shown that in 2011 alone, an individual in the United States was arrested for marijuana use, sale, or possession every 42 seconds. Every 42 seconds, mostly in poor and minority communities. Our current laws are turning everyday Americans into criminals, sending them to jail, ruining their lives, tearing apart families, and wasting huge amounts of taxpayer dollars to arrest, prosecute, and incarcerate people for marijuana use, a drug that has been proven time and time again to be far less dangerous than alcohol, both for individual consumers as well as for the people around them. Dr. Donald Abrams, who's the chief of oncology at San Francisco General Hospital, has talked about how in the 37 years that he has worked and served as a physician, the number of patients that he's admitted to his hospital with marijuana complications are 0. Number of patients that he's admitted due to alcohol use is, quote, profound. So rather than actually helping people, our current laws are turning them into criminals, forever impacting their future and the future of their families. Over the years, we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars locking people up for nonviolent marijuana offenses, creating strain within our criminal justice system, clogging court calendars, and resulting in further overcrowding our prisons. Now, just a few weeks ago, I had the chance to go and visit a number of our prisons and jails in Hawaii, where I saw firsthand the crumbling infrastructure, the extreme overcrowding, and facilities in dire need of upgrades, as well as the shortage of services that are actually needed to help rehabilitate people and reduce our recidivism rates. So whether you personally think that marijuana use is good or bad, whether you would choose to use marijuana or not, the question is, should we really be sending people to jail and turning them into criminals for it? The answer is no. The fiscal impacts, the social impacts of our current policy are having devastating ripple effects on individuals and our communities and are only continuing to perpetuate the problem. For example, the contradiction that we see currently between state and federal laws on marijuana has created a serious problem for many of our local businesses. I've talked with local bankers in my home state of Hawaii who express great frustration and even confusion about the contradiction between our laws. The fact that our state of Hawaii has legalized and authorized marijuana dispensaries to grow, process, and dispense medical marijuana. Federal law also prohibits banks and credit unions from offering any type of financial services to both businesses and individuals whose financial transactions have anything to do with marijuana. So what this means in a practical term is that our state-recognized and licensed medical marijuana dispensary owners, as well as their employees, they can't open a bank account. They can't get a loan from our local bank. The businesses literally have to hold thousands or even millions of dollars of their transactions and conducting their transactions in cash. Businesses that provide services to these medical marijuana dispensaries are also unable to access financial services due to the gaps between federal and state law. So as we look at ways that we need to update our outdated drug policies and the need for us to reform a very broken criminal justice system, we need to take into account the growing body of evidence that suggests the medicinal benefits of marijuana, including preventing epileptic seizures, reducing anxiety, and even halting the growth of cancer cells. However, the FDA still currently classifies marijuana as a Schedule I classification, basically saying that marijuana is just like heroin, LSD, and MDMA, ignoring the fact that at least 28 states, including my home state of Hawaii, have already accepted the medical use of marijuana under state law. In addition to passing H.R. 1227, we need to require the FDA to remove marijuana from Schedule I based on state-accepted medical use. These reforms that we're calling for in this bipartisan bill are common sense, and they're long overdue changes that will help to reduce the strain on our criminal justice system, create certainty and reduce contradictions and confusion between state and federal law, and updating those federal laws to actually meet the needs and progress that states are making across the country.
Republicans and Democrats join together in Senate to legalize pot on federal level. In an epic pushback against the tyranny of Jeff Sessions and his war on an amazing plant, lawmakers crossed party lines to legalize cannabis federally. By Matt Agarist, June 16, 2017. In a bipartisan pushback against the tyrannical Jeff Sessions and his relentless war on cannabis, U.S. Senators Rand Paul, R. Kentucky, Cory Booker, D. New Jersey, and Kirsten Gillibrand, D. New York, have introduced a bill that will end federal prohibition of marijuana. The fact is, our marijuana laws in America are broken, Democratic Senator Cory Booker said at the bill's unveiling at the Capitol. They are savagely broken, and the jagged pieces are hurting American people. The Compassionate Access, Research Expansion, and Respect States, or CARES, Act would go directly after the D's absurd and immoral classification of marijuana under the Controlled Substances Act. It would allow for the states to act on their own in regards to possession, production, and distribution of medical marijuana. While this bill was originally introduced in 2015 as the first ever medical marijuana bill in the U.S. Senate, it now boasts even more support, adding Democratic Senator Al Franken and Republican Senators Lisa Murkowski and Mike Lee. This bill mirrors bipartisan legislation that was introduced in Congress by Representatives Tom Garrett, RVA, and Tulsi Gabbard, D-High, to exclude cannabis from the Federal Controlled Substances Act, CSA, in February, and illustrates how preventing the government from caging and killing people over a plant has transcended party lines. The CARERS Act also specifically addresses veterans and the ability to obtain this most beneficial plant. SB 683 directs the Department of Veterans Affairs, VA, to authorize VA healthcare providers to provide veterans with recommendations and opinions regarding participation in state marijuana programs. The reintroduction of the CARERS Act is the first of many steps we hope this Congress will take to end the federal prohibition of medical marijuana, Don Murphy, Director of Conservative Outreach for the Marijuana Policy Project, said in a statement. Polls show overwhelmingly strong support for medical marijuana, and it spans the political spectrum. Read more: citizens arrested, forced to register as sex offenders for having consensual anal sex now suing state. The federal government should not be meddling in state laws that allow it or obstructing research into its many medical benefits. This bill comes at a dire time in the history of cannabis prohibition in America. Just after tyrant Jeff Sessions was exposed for privately sending a letter to congressional leaders asking them to turn legal medical marijuana patients into criminals, Republicans and Democrats put their party differences aside and joined forces to stave off the inevitable persecution of innocents that would follow such a C9 policy. I believe it would be unwise for Congress to restrict the discretion of the department to fund particular prosecutions, particularly in the midst of an historic drug epidemic and potentially long-term uptick in violent crime, Sessions penned. The department must be in a position to use all laws available to combat the transnational drug organizations and dangerous drug traffickers who threaten American lives. Notably, the senators are even calling Sessions out for his misguided rage against cannabis, pointing out how it has already, in spite of prohibition, saved the lives of countless children who suffer from seizures. I dare him to sit down with families and listen to their stories and then pursue a policy like he's advocating for now, Booker says of Sessions' letter. However, judging from Sessions' ignorance and obstinance on the issue of marijuana, he would most likely arrest the parents and their child for possessing a controlled substance. As Rolling Stone reports, while the bill's proponents know their proposal faces an uphill battle, they also say they believe the effort is quickly picking up steam, especially because many red states have now passed some form of legal weed. I believe things are changing and they're changing fast, Senator Gillibrand tells Rolling Stone. I think we will get the support we need. Read more: there is a new kind of organized crime in America and it's spearheaded by the police. Gillibrand is right, the times are changing. People are no longer accepting the status quo of government kidnapping and caging people for possessing a plant. People are also waking up to the fact that cannabis is a medicine and can fight our current opioid problem in this country. Those who continue to persecute their fellow American for possessing this plant would do well to get on the right side of history and refuse to enforce such tyranny. After all, without the state's enforcers willing to ruin people's lives by extorting, kidnapping, caging, and killing people over pot, prohibition is nothing more a piece of paper, scribbled on by a bunch of corrupt lowlifes who couldn't care less about their fellow human.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But, you know, do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, you know, at least I can do it. You know, 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt-free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea, too, that we have is, you know, if I got, you know, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. You know, 47,000 of you so far right now. You know, $1 a day. I mean, $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.